Good evening and welcome. It's Paul Smith here, and I've got Dan Taylor with me as well. So I don't know if you want to say hello to everyone, Dan.
Hello everybody, good evening. Welcome to the webinar this evening. It's going to be a great time, fun, hopefully some entertainment as well, and a little bit of education thrown into the mix too. So looking forward to the next hour and taking questions after it. So do stay to the end, because at the end of the valuable content, we are going to be doing Q&A for any questions that you have through the event. So if you have any, write them down and let's get them all answered at the end.
Perfect. And we've got a few minutes before the actual webinar starts. So just so that we know that you are able to hear us and see the screens and so on, would you mind putting into the chat box just who you are and where you're listening in from? I can see people joining the room all the time, which is great. So please share with us who you are, where you are. So Dan, where are you tuning in from this evening?
Well, we're in south of Spain, Puerto Banús, little port just within the Marbella region. Absolutely beautiful. It's been here all week, nice and sunny, and we're coming back tomorrow. So it's been good.
Excellent. And okay, so we've got loads of people saying hi. So we've got Sean, is service accommodation or commercial property portfolio webinar. This is commercial property, Sean. Louise Napton is saying hi. It's Louise from Halifax. Hi, Louise. We've got Gary Lewis from London, and then we've got Katrina, I think that is. Hi, Paul and Dan. It's Derek and Katrina from Falkirk. Hello there. Mohammed in London. Coral. Hi, Coral. How you doing? Good to hear from you again. So, fantastic.
Yeah, and Sean E., in terms of service accommodation, this is the absolute perfect strategy to combine with service accommodation. Transforming vacant commercial property into blue chip investments, and if it's multi-story, having the service accommodation upstairs. In fact, one of my recent purchases is a hotel, 9,000 square foot, and it looks like, not 100% yet, but it looks like we're going to convert 7,500 square foot into 15 two-bed SA units, and have 1,470 square foot for the hot food commercial on the ground. So, as I said, first floor, second floors in commercial sometimes aren't the best, or are very much underutilized, not efficient. But combining the two strategies together really is, gives fantastic returns. So great combo.
Echo that, and Dan and myself, as you'll find out through the next hour or so, slightly different. We're both very into commercial property, but we buy it in different ways and we use it for different things. So we're going to share with you different case studies and different experience that we've got as to all the different ways you can get enormous benefit from commercial property. So we've got Gary on the call here. Just got back from Estepona yesterday, down the road from Puerto Banús. So take your word for it, Gary. I don't really know that neck of the woods, but I'm sure Dan will. So,
yeah, it's just 15, 20 minutes away. I think it was about 6 weeks ago, actually. We were in Estepona. In fact, just before Estepona, on the hill on the right, there's a fantastic go-karting track. And the whole family, well, it was about 20 of us there, actually. It was a great time.
Perfect. Well, my clock has just clicked over. Watch. I don't wear a watch, a clock. I wear a watch. Has just told me it's 8 o'clock. So if it's okay with you, Dan, I think we should get going officially. We've still got people joining us all the time. So let's get going. So this evening, we've got wonderful Dan Taylor and myself, Paul Smith, sharing with you an hour of content on commercial property investing, and then giving you an extra special. You're going to be stunned when we share with you what the opportunity is at the end, an hour from now. So do stay with us and enjoy the next hour. So pencils sharp, notepads ready, recording devices at hand. Here we go. What Dan and myself want to share with you over the next hour is how you could get to your financial freedom figure, how you could become totally financially free in just one deal. So if you like the idea of one deal taking you to complete financial freedom, then we would absolutely love to help you on that journey. So specifically, over the next hour, we're going to show you exactly how to take this opportunity for more cash flow. Who couldn't do with more cash flow? Wealth. This is real intergenerational wealth creation that we want to share with you. How to do that in such a way that you've got time freedom. So to make this very clear, this is not buying a load of buy-to-lets and then spending the rest of your mortal days running around after tenants and all the rest of it. We'll share more detail on that, but this is where the tenants pay for professionals to run around after them so that you don't burn up your powerful time. And compound returns, absolutely unbelievable. And we're going to share with you little tips on how to benefit from HMRC tax rules. Dan, you want to say something just there?
Yes, Paul, sorry to butt in, but we're still on the slide of the free consultation. Maybe it just needs a little rebooting. We have some tech gremlins again, as always.
So have the slides just disappeared?
No, we have scary faces on the screen too.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's fine. So I'm now going to turn the screen share back on again. I'm going to share that. So
fantastic.
Okay, so we're back in the right place. So let's just go over that slide again, because that obviously we did have a little technical gremlin there. Don't know what happened there. Nolan has just joined us in the meantime. So hi, Nolan. That was a very nice lunch yesterday. Good to see you on the webinar. So we'll show you over the next hour how to take this opportunity for more cash flow. Like I was just saying, who couldn't do with some more cash flow? Or wealth creation. This is an intergenerational wealth creation strategy. How to free up much more of your time, because commercial property is the most time efficient way of investing, such that you're not using any of your time to manage the property, because the tenants, the clients will pay to manage themselves, all while compounding your returns and benefiting from HMRC tax rules. Okay, so now that we've got the tech under control, just 1 hour from now, we want to reveal to you how one property deal, we're going to do a case study on just one property deal that made over 2 million in profit, and it's generating more than £200,000 of cash flow per annum. So I'm sure for virtually everybody on the call, 2 million in profit and 200,000 per annum from just one deal, that's financial freedom for most people. I mean, just maybe put something in the chat box if 200,000 a year would represent a pay cut for you. And just let us know if you need a bigger deal than that. It's not saying you can't do a bigger deal than that, but that is a case study we're going to be sharing with you just not even an hour from now. So let's just take a quick tour around and just make sure everybody knows what is commercial property. So what do we mean by commercial property? Well, here's a picture of a typical high street. So whether you can see banks there, you can see a newsagent. So essentially, the really simple way to describe what is commercial property is essentially anything that isn't residential property. So if it's not residential, then it's commercial by definition. That's just as about as simple as it gets. So it might look like that. Now, what Dan already said is the upstairs, just in the little introduction there, you said the upstairs, Dan, is not always utilised the best for commercial property. So what did you mean by that? When you're saying upstairs, downstairs, could you just share with everybody what you mean?
Well, on the ground floor, traditionally or typically, you get your best rent per square foot, and your zone A, which is right at the front, first 9 meters is your the highest rent you'll achieve. Thereafter, it decreases significantly, 50% actually every 9 meters you go back. Same upstairs. So as soon as you go upstairs to the first and second floors, typically, if you just have a look at the RV of any property, that will reflect typically what upstairs would be for a rental, but really, typically is very inefficient.
Yeah, sure. I can hear you perfectly. One of the things you said to me is I've got to pick you up if you start using any in-house techno babble. You just said RV. What do you mean by RV?
RV is rateable value, which is found on your local SA website. So it's an easy figure found, but at the end of the day, the key concept is ground floor, right at the front, first 9 meters is the most valuable of the property for rental. First, second floors aren't very valuable. In fact, quite hard to rent, actually. Obviously, there's some spaces, gyms, for example, right now, love them. But in essence, SA upstairs would provide significantly more returns than any other use as a commercial aspect, unless obviously the brand, whatever it is taking the whole space as a one unit.
Yeah, and there are some, and we'll cover some of those. So just to reinforce what Danny is saying there. So just looking at that picture in front of you, you can see, for example, Nationwide and Barclays banks. So it's very likely that Barclays Bank will have the floor above it just for its own staff or whatever. Whereas Nationwide is far more likely to have residential units above it. So anything that you can find with the nice glass front on the ground floor, great for retail or those sorts of uses. And then above it, potentially office space. But what I love doing, and I've got several of them, is I'll turn the upstairs into service apartments, which is just my way of monetizing it. So it could be straightforward offices like these, and what Dan and myself very happy to share with you at a later date is how you would monetize these different opportunities, either for sale or to let. So you can see in that street we've got for sale and to let boards. So possibly during the Q&A afterwards we can give you some insights into that. Commercial property could just be a pub. So lots of pubs shutting down at the moment, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever your view on this. Great old British institution. There's many less of them. And you've been known to buy the odd empty pub in your time, haven't you, Dan?
Absolutely. There's been a number of industries that have been massively annihilated by various different things that we'll go into, but predominantly the 2007-8 crash and also over-regulation. Government regulation comes in, tries to do one thing and impacts another thing. And pubs, to be honest, since 2008, 28 a week have closed down, and are still closing down. It's been absolutely devastation in the high street. But despite the devastation, what it's done is reduced vacant commercial distressed property prices down to, the last one I bought was 92% of the cost to build. Now that's 92% discount on the cost to build.
Yeah,
if you couple, which is incredible.
Yeah, go for it, Dan.
Couple that with putting in a high street brand. You all of a sudden do one thing, and that one thing is you go from a vacant possession value, which at the end of the day, a VP value or vacant possession value of a property is what two people can agree. And it very much depends on the financial position of the purchaser and the motivations of the vendor. So that could be a number of different things. And it's very much an art as opposed to a science. You go to the other side of the fence. So if you transform it from a vacant possession value to an investment value with a big brand in there, you get a low yield, which means a very, very high multiple or price or value. So those two different things are the basis of this strategy and why you can double and triple property values. One we've done is just over 1,000% increase in value, and that's not too shabby. It's kind of cool. The value is not really a big thing for me, to be honest. It's not about the value at all, because value is only important if you go to leverage things. And I'm a complete, anti-debt leverage. I'm probably the worst anyone's ever seen. I'm Mr. Paranoia. Because it's a while ago I had my financial arse fell, and I'll never be put in that position again. So my commercial property portfolio that are finished and completed are geared to 15% just now. Now that sounds like a low amount, but the key thing is you can do that. This is like the antithesis of what everybody else preaches in the industry. Everyone says use debt, leverage up as much as you can, so you got no money left in. But in a correction, whenever the next correction comes, now they're usually 8.6 years, and 8.6 plus 2008, we're kind of overdue right now. So imagine your current portfolio was hit by 10 or 15 or 20% reduction in values. All of a sudden, your friendly banker comes predatory, and it's a different story. So this strategy, if you think of buying something for 100K and you can triple it to 300K, all of a sudden you're 33% geared, no money in, and the thing's cash flowing crazy. So it's a great strategy in this environment, and it's a great strategy for the foreseeable future. Going ahead, and all it is align yourself, being a matchmaker between vacant commercial property and understanding national high street brands, what their specific requirements are in terms of geography, population, square footage, width of shop fronts, car parking, those kind of things. It's a really, really simple.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Dan. And just to reinforce two startling numbers that Dan just shared with us there, he just said his last commercial acquisition was a 92% discount to the build cost. So in other words, Dan paid 8% of the build cost. And what Dan typically does is he'll drop in a high street brand to an empty commercial unit. They do all the fixing up, and commercial property is not, the value of a commercial property is almost nothing to do with the bricks and mortar value. So I realise for many people on the call tonight, probably an awful lot are residential property investors, and they're just still trying to get their heads around what 10% of the cost to build you can buy it for, and then you can multiply the value by 10 when you drop somebody in it. Well, yeah. And then the next thing that Dan said there was his gearing. So his debt to the value of his portfolio is 15%, 15%. Now, many people look at me a bit strange because my gearing is under 50%. So we've got slightly different strategies, but I'm personally very comfortable with a gearing of 50% versus my portfolio value. But you know, Dan's even worse than me. So I actually don't have any mortgages at all now that are not on repayment. So I'm the other side of 50, and I just do not believe in interest only, mortgage the hell out of everything, because just like Dan said, I think that's dangerous. So if you're in that position, and if you want to move to a different position, then Dan and myself would love to work with you to get you further into commercial property. And whether you want pubs or entire shopping centres, because without giving the details away, Dan, you are looking at a shopping centre at the moment, aren't you?
Well, we definitely did look at it and did the DD, but it actually went to auction. My favourite strategy is when something goes through auction and it doesn't sell, let it fail another auction, and then if it's something you're really after, pick it up the day before the third auction. In that way, it's rinsed through twice. The prices, you've got a motivated vendor on the other side. But that shopping centre was, believe it or not, it's 125,000 square foot. It finally went for 1,005,000, and it was bringing in 600,000 rent. But despite that, it was burning £173,000 a year, and on top of that, 3 of the tenants were expiring at the end of next year. So it's kind of like that deal is kind of like running at the wall full speed. If you don't have a lot of resources or ideas to implement quickly, I just hadn't had a great idea, it would have worked fantastic. But I don't like to put myself at risk again. So if a deal can potentially significantly affect you negatively, I just don't do it. Every time I buy a deal, I always use stress-free money. And every time I ask myself the question, if this doesn't rent for 3 years, is it going to make any difference to me?
Yeah.
And if it's not going to make any difference, we go ahead. And if it does, then we don't do it. So it's all about creating a wealth, building wealth, creating a legacy, and creating a transgenerational legacy, but in a very safe, low-risk, low-geared way, and all outsourced. Because when you bag one of these brands, they're typically in for 15. We've got 35-year leases, but typically in for 15 years minimum. They spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds on your property, and life is good. There's really not much you do after that. You appoint your managing agent, they get on with it, and they charge the tenant to police the tenant. But we're kind of digressing here, Paul. As soon as I start talking, you can't stop me.
All right, I love it. I love listening. I love this idea of stress-free money. And I love the idea of, if I actually don't get any income from this property for the next 3 years, do I care? Does it make any difference to my financial well-being? So very, very briefly, one slide with about 3 lines on it. Who are Dan and Paul? Well, you've seen some mugshots of us from earlier on. So Dan on the top left, me on the top right, and then the two of us together.
Paul, we still have the pub. As nice as it is, we need to move on. Maybe we need to rebooting again.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to reload it again.
So, I think I like the pub better, actually.
Sorry about this. what's going on tonight, Dan? So,
No, it's fine. It's
can you see it there? Have you got the picture of us?
We had the picture of us, but it's there we are. Who are Dan and Paul? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So very, very briefly then, let's keep going on that one. If you stick two portfolios together, they're worth more than 16 million quid. We both own property businesses, and the joint focus, the agenda that we share, the cause that we promote together, is training and educating people to use commercial property. So that's really it in terms of who are Dan and Paul. So if you like the idea an hour from now, or spend a bit more time with us, then you can. So why would you invest in commercial property? Well, here's a bit of a list. Fantastic returns. You can get financial freedom in just one deal. More time. So 100% managed by professionals and not by you. So this is completely, wildly, totally different in two ways already from normal buy-to-let properties. No hassle. Well, no tenant issues, and you've got an FRI lease. Now, I would normally let Dan go on an FRI lease and he can tell you what he thinks about it, but I'm just going to get to the end of this slide. So it's secure income. So none of this business every 6 to 9 months that you're changing over from one tenant to the next, and you've got all the costs and voids and all this stuff. So 10 to 35 year leases are absolutely typical, and the massive increases in values by taking a vacant or vacant property or a distressed business and then putting in a good tenant mean that because you've got very high value leases, because it's the lease that predominantly determines the value of the asset. In this case, it's the promise to pay. It's a forward cash flow. So because you've got that combined with very low purchase prices for empty boxes, as we call them, then that's where all the money's coming from. So Dan, do you want to say just a few words about an FRI lease and why the FRI lease, to use your words, is a thing of beauty?
Well, it definitely is a thing of beauty. I mean, the lease and the terms of those lease and who's on the end of the lease is really what determines the value, and why you can get between 13 times and 20 times the rent roll in terms of a value. So, for example, if you take a vacant commercial property at 100k and you have a great tenant in there, and just say he's on it, I won't go into yields because hardly anybody understands that, but on a reasonable 15-year lease with a regional covenant or tenant in place, you can multiply the rent by 13. Now, if the rent's typical, the average for me is 40k per box. That's in the 500,000s. So you can actually go from 100k to 500,000 just by bagging a tenant. Now, what an FRI does is it's almost like a bulletproof vest for your cost centers. It protects your cost centers so that your gross rent equals your net rent. And all those costs that residential property investors have in the middle, like your new boiler, like more compliance, more regulation, your agent's costs. An agent cost can be anything from 8 to 20%, depending if you're talking about a normal buy-to-let or a more work-intensive HMO, because there's 5 individual tenants and those kind of things. In an FRI lease, the cost for managing a professional management firm who has multiple departments is anything between 0 and 20%. So normally I would pay 0 because I would draft the management contracts in such a way that the tenant pays everything, and they pay 3 months in advance. But basically, in a nutshell, your FRI lease protects you from any costs on that property going forward.
Yep.
The only cost you have is cost of capital, how you financed it.
And just to decode the 3-letter acronym there for you, FRI, which is kind of an industry term in the commercial property world, stands for full repairing and insuring lease. And that specifically means that the tenant is responsible for all repairs, 100% repairs, and they're also responsible for all insurance. And finally, which I love, when they move out, they're also responsible for putting it back to as it was when they moved in the first place. So we're going to go straight into case studies now, and we're going to show you a current project that's purchased in June 2016. So this is one of Dan's. So we've got some of Dan's and we've got some of mine. So Dan bought a commercial property, which is a derelict hotel. Purchase price was 147. Dan then create an alliance with the local housing association. That's a big LHA, local housing association.
Paul, we're still on the why invest in commercial property. It's stuck again. More tech gremlins.
This is just getting ridiculous. Sorry about this, everybody. So,
that's all good.
Well, keep me straight. So,
yes. Neville Moss on the ball.
Yeah, thank you. So, can you all see? Can you? As it?
Yes, that's it. It's all good.
So, tell me if it stops, Dan.
Okay.
So Dan then sold on the hotel for 175k with very significant obligations for the LHA. So the deal is that the local housing association develops 12 affordable apartments, and then what they do is they build 2 units on the ground floor, where Dan is actually going to buy those back for 100k. So the net cost, and we'll show you how that net cost is built up. The net cost is 72k, but then by the time you add on legal fees and this, that, and the other thing, the total cost to Dan is £90,000, and he ends up with 2 brand new, shiny commercial units on the ground floor. So this is the picture of what it used to look like. So hopefully you can all see that. And this is the actual picture from a few months ago when the demolition started. So there's absolutely flattened. You can see the big digger thing there, the excavator with the backhoe on it, crushing it all to the ground, all outsourced. So Dan's not involved in the finance, and there's no Bob the Builder stuff at all. And then this is the steel frame going up, for that's the internal staircase, you can see, getting craned into sight. And so Dan is absolutely not involved at all in this project until it's all finished, and they hand him back 2 brand new, shiny, finished commercial units. So are we still up to speed on the slides, Dan? You can see that?
Yes, great, fantastic. I can see the shiny steel, or not so shiny steel, but it looks good anyway.
Yeah, perfect. So there it is. That's a more recent picture. So the project is going on, and just to reinforce the fact that there's no finance and no Bob the Builder. And this is what it's going to look like at the end. Sorry, there we go. So that's an artist's impression of what's been created. And you can see the 2 glass-fronted units there that Dan ends up with. So there's the floor plan, and you can see, well, Dan will know the sizes, but there's one at 1,400 square feet, and there's one at nearly 1,300 square feet. So 2 quite similar size units with a number of flats above. Dan's not really interested in operating buy-to-let flats. That's not what he does. He just wants the commercial glass-fronted bit on the ground floor. So what alliances has Dan had to form to get that to where it is now? So it's not a commercial conversion because this is a brand new development. There's no finance costs because Dan's not involved in the finance. There's no development work Dan to do because he's outsourced that to the LHA. So he's totally de-risked it. He's transferred any potential liabilities, and we'll just pause in a second and I'll ask Dan to just maybe say a few things. He's ring-fenced all the risk because he's given that to the LHA. So his alliance partner has got very onerous obligations and penalties paid to Dan if the project runs late. So when we're talking about transfer of potential liabilities, Dan, more or less as soon as they started the demolition, I understand, or I know, that they pretty much found asbestos straight away that wasn't supposed to be there, didn't they?
Yes, it's usually the case in these kind of developments where you don't know what you've got until you start stripping out. We had an asbestos report done; they had one done, but still, you usually find it. But what's the implications of finding it? It's about a 6 to 8 week delay on the whole project. Now, that doesn't sound perhaps a lot, but it's kind of tools down when you find asbestos and you go through the process. It is always dealt with, but if you imagine a 13-month project and you've got a 6 to 8 week delay, then it has implications for you, quite severe ones, because at the end of the 13 months, every week that they're late, they start paying £1,000 in penalties to myself, which is quite nice. So my only job was 2 things, 3 things really: secure the property, purchase it, and then create an alliance with this housing association. Now, it wasn't the first housing association I called. I spoke to many, so it's not the first one usually that picks up that does a deal with you. And it's not to say they want to do a deal, and they're not the fastest to deal with. But the three alliances were, purchase a thing, create an alliance with the housing association that has a need in this area to meet targets, and the third thing is create an alliance with a couple of brands, high street brands for the ground floor. Now we're in the depths of legals for renting out the ground floor, so we're going to bring another 2 national brands to the town of Largs, and that's, I don't know, I think that's quite a cool thing. You're helping the high street regenerate. You're helping employment. There's going to be about 45 people employed in these 2 boxes. At the case study we'll show you at the end, the employment in the box went from 9 to 107. Now, if you imagine the reciprocal effects and the good things you're doing, the contribution that you're bringing to that town, plus the new brands that the locals who have never had access to before, it's a win-win for everybody. So
it must feel really special to be able to put projects like that into towns that, I mean, you're literally regenerating towns there, aren't you, Dan? I mean, that's a gorgeous trophy asset built for you by somebody else, and it must be a really warm feeling knowing that you're creating affordable housing for people, homes for high street brands, and you're monetizing it at no risk to yourself. I just think that's beautiful. What could be better? It's just absolutely beautiful.
And I really quite fancy the top floor flat myself. It looks fantastic.
Well, it's not.
But
I was actually thinking that those flats, to use your phrase, not too shabby for people on benefits or whatever. That's if I was in the position where I needed to take advantage of for whatever reason, benefits or support or whatever, because it's not these people. It's nobody's fault that they're in the need of help. We all need help from time to time. But to get housed in one of those things, looking out over the sea, I'd quite like that. So yeah, well done. So tell me if the slides are stuck again, Dan. But I've now moved on to the cash flows and the cash tied up.
Absolutely perfect.
So Dan,
Dan,
yeah, well, don't say that. So quietly. So Dan purchased this for 147k in June 2016. So in June 2016, Dan has got 147k of cash tied up. He's also got costs of £18,000, and I've put it there, but this is all the way through the project to the end. So effectively, this is all Dan's architects, legal fees, planning, all the other bits and pieces he's had to spend to get to the point where the LHA has done the deal with him. So total cash tied up, £165,000. In March this year, March 2017, Dan then sold that to the local housing association. So Dan is now £10,000 to the good. Everyone understand that? So he's bought it, he's paid for all the legal stuff. He's then sold it to the LHA with the obligation to sell him the ground floor back again when it's finished. So Dan has now got £10,000 in the bank, which is not why you're doing this, but Dan has now got no cash tied up until April next year, where he has to buy the shops. But look at this. On the day that he buys the shops for £100,000, even if he bought it for cash, he would have 2 brand new units on the ground floor, all ready to go with tenants moving in, and it's only cost him £90,000. So I can see some questions in the boxes here about, can you really do a deal with £100,000? Well, yeah, look, that's a deal with £100,000. So the valuation of those shops in April 2016, and we'll maybe talk a little bit more about how things are valued towards the end of the presentation. But Dan puts 2 national tenants into those 2 boxes. The shops will be valued at £650,000 on the same day. So if Dan wanted to put a mortgage in place of £90,000 on the same day, well, it's not even a 15% mortgage. It's 90,000 over 650. So it's less than 15% mortgage. So he'd have no money tied up whatsoever. That he's got all his money out at that point. He'd have £560,000 of equity at that point in time. So 650 valuation, £90,000 mortgage, given an equity of 560. And what would that look like in terms of figures for Dan? Well, assuming there's 2 FRI leases to 2 different businesses for 15 years, and Dan's negotiating that right now, then the mortgage is actually 14% loan to value on a 15-year repayment. So pay it all off over a straight 15-year period. The annual FRI income for repairing and insuring lease income from the 2 shop units is £1,000 a week. It's £26,000 times 2, so it's £1,000 a week. The annual mortgage costs, we assumed, I think it was a 3 or 3.5% cost of capital for this, or interest. So Dan's total annual mortgage costs are of the order of £8,000 if he did this, and a net annual income of £46,000 from one deal where he has done no construction work and no financing of the build of all the flats above it. And in 15 years' time, Dan would then be the proud owner of a £650,000 asset that's debt-free that would then start generating £52,000 a year. So absolutely fabulous. That's an absolutely fabulous outcome for that particular project. So if you sat there thinking, well, I wonder if I can do this, how could I do this? Well, we're going to show you 5 different ways now of how you could potentially do this. So OpCo, PropCo. So I do that quite a lot. Dan does that quite a lot. So this is where you separate the asset owning company, the PropCo, from the operating company. And you can then sell your slides. Someone's just, hang on. So you can sell the lease to yourself, effectively control both ends of the deal. So Katrina is saying she thinks my slides are stuck again. Can you confirm this, Dan? Are we looking at some ways you can do this? OpCo, PropCo?
OpCo, PropCo, yeah. That's what it says for me.
All right. So I'm in Scotland, just to explain, and Dan is down in Spain. So I'm pretty sure that he can't see the slides through the window. Is that correct, Dan? You've seen it over the internet?
Absolutely. You just have to have good internet here.
Yes, good. You could do flips. You could do it in a pension scheme. You could do it by way of building a portfolio, and you could do it by installing high street brands. So we've got 5 different ways that we're going to go through with you there. So the first of these is OpCo, PropCo, and I've got a little video for you, which just give me 2 seconds. I'll load it up. So this is Dan talking to Robbie on an OpCo, PropCo deal. So enjoy the video. It's only a minute or 2, and then we'll have a look. We'll ask Dan to maybe say a few words on it. So here we go with the video.
Hi guys, I'm Dan, the distressed asset guy from Scotland, and we're in sunny Paisley today in the High Street, and this building behind us is a 9,000 square foot multi-leisure use offering with a cafe, snooker, pool, amusement arcade. And after exhausting about 9 nationals on this one, I realised, like the Story Acres of Diamonds, that the solution was right in front of me. When I was approached by a manager of mine for about 13 years, best chap that's ever worked for me, a man called Robbie Morrison. He approached me and we did a management buyout. And now he's running this, and the reason it touches a place in my heart is I helped somebody cross the line from employee to business owner. So let me introduce you to Robbie right now. Here's Robbie, how are you doing? He's just completed his first year in business. How does it feel to make that change, Robs, from employee to business owner?
It's been a very stressful year, to say the least, but one that I wouldn't change. It's been great. Massive learning curve, but it's been the best decision I've ever made, and it's hopefully going to make a better future for myself, my family, and also Paisley. Seen a bit of investment back into the High Street. It's been a long time coming, so it's good to see the place changing, improving, and hopefully with Paisley getting 2021 bids, that'll improve it even better.
There you go then. Distressed assets, you can transform the property and people's lives. Anyway, tune in next time. We'll speak soon.
Okay, so hope you enjoyed that short video. Just reloading the slides now. So thank you for staying with us. In fact, the numbers are still going up, so we've got more people joining us. So over and above the video that you just kindly shared there, Dan, is what else would you say about that particular OpCo, PropCo deal? I mean, what are the numbers involved? What's the valuation now? What did you buy it for?
Yeah, well, this one's, I really enjoyed this one, to be honest. It was on the market for offers over £340,000, and we managed to secure a lease option. Now the option price was £150,000, and the option was for 5 years. And you might think, okay, offers over 340, you got an option at 150. How on earth did you do that? And it's really about one thing, to be honest. make a friend, then make a deal. But the key thing is to really find out, put them first, put the vendor first, and really find out over a number of meetings what their real big issues are and solve those issues. And many of the times when you dig deep enough, you'll find out it's not mostly about money. And if you can dig deep and find those issues and solve them, then you become incredibly important to their life. And I managed to do that for this particular chap. Still know him, great guy. But in terms of numbers, yeah, we paid 150. We currently, searched for national brands, and this is almost like a failure that is also a success. And the reason it was a failure is we contacted numerous brands, and we had the Co-op and Papa John's in due diligence, doing serious work on this. Finally, drifted away, and after so that's my failure. I never got a national high street brand, but the success was helping a manager of mine cross the line, as the video says, from basically employee to entrepreneur. And now he has a lease in place, and the rent is £42,000. So if you think about that, 150k cost. The net cost was actually 120, but I won't go into that tonight. It's a bit too involved to explain that. But it's a net cost of 120, £42,000 rent. It's not a bad failure. It's kind of okay. Ticks the box.
Yep.
So really, really good result, and extra special because he's been a manager of mine for 13 years. Awesome guy, and he just needs a little belief in himself and a little bit of help. And everybody needs a little bit of help now and again, to cross that line kind of thing. It's a scary thing, and he's done it. He's excited. He's doing well. So good luck to him. Still meet him every month. Fixed challenges along the way, but this has been a great deal. It's about 11,000 square feet. And, so imagine 11,000 square foot for £120,000 net cost, and then 42k coming. Now he wouldn't get the same multiple.
You're buying it for £10 a square foot. Normally you rent the bloody thing for £10 a square foot. So that's incredible.
These kind of distressed, commercial. Now this was a distressed, kind of business that was burning money. So a little bit different, but still at the end of the day, it's as a result of the 2008 crash, massive government over-regulation, and it's had unintended consequences that has been a detriment to this whole industry. But because of those things that have happened, you can buy things at ridiculously cheap values. Now, 120k, 11,000 square foot, 42k rent. What is the rent worth? What is that? 42,000. On a bad day, I would say 360. On a good day, 500,000. So let's just say 10%, which is 420k. So even when you put smaller tenants in there, and even if it was a 12% yield, which is even worse again, you kind of in the 320k, so 320 to 400k ish on a bad day. So you nearly triple the thing without having a national brand. So it's still not a bad result for one of my failures.
Yeah. And the next slide, no, it's not. That's I wish I failed like that all the time. So the next one I've put up, Dan, this is a bigger OpCo-PropCo deal that you did. So do you want to just very briefly explain, if you can see it in front of you, these three numbers, 21 million, 8 million, 21.5 million?
Nothing's up, Paul.
Nothing's up.
If you find a slide, there we go. It's moving, two faces.
I'm going to reload it again. I don't think I've ever had so many whatever. Here we go. Reloading again. Can you see it now?
Yeah, this was an OpCo-PropCo situation where we had a business that was trading, and the trading business also owned the properties. So it was a limited company that we basically did leveraged buyouts, which is a fancy term for a very short term for saying we purchased business by financing the cash flow and underlying assets of the business. After a while, we then did a slightly larger deal, about 12.4 million. They all went into the one vehicle, a limited company, and then thereafter we did a sale leaseback to ourselves. What that means is your trading company sells the properties to another company that you own and rents them back on very landlord-friendly terms. So it was minimum, I think it was 15-year leases. We were going to go for 20, but 15-year leases were enough. So the top figure was what the business was worth when it was all together, 21 mil. And by splitting the assets of the property assets from the trading assets and creating that investment value with the new entity leasing the properties back to the trading company, the business then went down from 21 to 8, but the investment value went up to 21. So all of a sudden we had an 8.4 million uplift just by separating assets and creating an investment, 15-year secure leases, to a trading company that had enough profits to pay the rental and whatnot. So there's a bit of maybe a higher level view of what can be done in the OpCo/PropCo stroke sale and leaseback kind of world. Yeah. It's not unusual. Everybody does it. I mean, Travelodge recently sold all their assets, their properties, for 160 million to a kind of mentor of mine, and that was so. Why did they do this? It's just normal business for them because it's a non-core asset, and they can utilize that there's millions of pounds for them, building more hotels and doing the same thing over and over again.
And Dan's done this very successfully for a number of years. I did it very successfully, not for me, but up until 2004. I was doing all this sort of stuff at a corporate level. So working with Dan, and when I say corporate level, the reason I came to Scotland in the year 2000 was to run a company called Allied Distillers. So it was the second biggest spirits company in the world at the time. So I was managing balance sheets of 2.5 billion, cost centers of hundreds of millions, profit centers of hundreds of millions, and 3,500 staff. And when you're exposed to that, and when it's a daily way of life, like it was for me and it is for Dan, it becomes more than just a property strategy. This is a business strategy. And with Dan and myself, would love to spend more time with you to answer all the questions you've got, and to share with you how you can use this to create real wealth for you and your loved ones. So that's the OpCo/PropCo, and we're not expecting you to learn everything about that. We just want you to be aware that it's possible. And if it's something that's interesting for you, then we'd love to talk to you more about it. This is a gorgeous one, Dan. This is another one of yours. So have you got your flip on the screen in front of you, or do I need to reload it again?
Looks like we need another reload, Paul.
Jesus Christ. I'm doing this one slide at a time.
Maybe we should cut our slides down.
Maybe we should. Maybe just not have any slides.
Yeah. Oh, I remember it well. This was fantastic. This was the first ever distressed commercial property I purchased. And it was a few years ago now. And basically, it was a property in Edinburgh, and 700-800 square foot-ish, and in a secondary location. And basically, somebody overnight vacated the property and left the country. So I managed to track down quite easily who.
Is that a polite way of saying did a runner?
Well, something like that, yeah. So I tracked down the bank, and unfortunately, it was a bank in Edinburgh because I lived there at the time, and they were called Allied Irish. And basically, within a very, very short period of time, we entered into an agreement to purchase this for £117,000. Now, back then in '95, that was a lot of money. It really was, especially when you're starting out. So, but two years later, actually 2.5 years later, we managed to sell this for £750,000.
Whoa.
It was a trading business, so we're selling the property and the business within there. But basically, it was nothing. It was a vacant, distressed commercial property. As you see the barrier there, that was to get the electric reconnected because they were disconnected, by whoever their supplier was at the time. So definitely a distressed kind of situation. We stripped it out, completely refitted it, put a new shop front on it, and then 2.5 years later, 29 months actually, we sold it for $750. So not a bad,
nice
idea of a flip. Total cost was about $150 all in after the refurbishment.
So you cleared about 600,000 on a flip.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is very nice. And we're not going to go into it tonight, but just a little note for you to talk to your accountant about, or us. Rollover relief on capital gains tax. If you reinvest the profits from a deal like that, from a flip like that, which you obviously can't do with normal buy-to-let, There's very, very tax efficient ways of bringing that money round again to use in the next deal.
Yeah. Well, we actually paid zero tax on this, Paul, because we used another strategy, Entrepreneurs Relief. So it worked fantastically. And every entrepreneur selling their business has a lifetime value of £10 million before they, start to get into the tax situation. So I think that's probably enough for anyone.
Yeah, I'd be okay.
Even you.
No, I'm steady. Not everybody, but yeah. So, okay. So where are we going to go next? Have you got the shelter shop in front of you there, Dan?
Yes, shelter's here.
Okay.
Costa Coffee and Shelter.
Yep. So this is one of mine. So the next two actually, I think, are mine. So this is where I've used my pension quite a few years ago now. I took my money out of my company pension scheme. So if this is something I'd like to talk about, then this is something I've been doing for 13 years now, I think. So I'm 53 now. I was 40 then. So yeah, that's 13 years ago. So I bought a commercial property, in my case, a shop. So you can see there is a shelter in front of you. Great location, in a place called Helensburgh. So right next to the Costa Coffee. So anything that is a Costa Coffee or next to a Costa Coffee is prime location. So my shop there is shelter, had it for years. And I've also got the first floor above it. And if you see the middle window of the floor above it, that's where I am actually tonight. So that's my office in Scotland, in Doncaster, in Scotland. And this is a different example of an OpCo-PropCo because my first floor office is rented by one of my companies from my pension scheme. So using it as a way to tip completely tax-free money back into my pension scheme. And the ground floor is rented to shelter. So in order to release, so I actually paid £250,000 for that shop, or I didn't, my pension did. And I surrendered 13 years ago my rights to an £8,000 per year pension when I was 60. And in exchange for that, it's called a transfer value. So you might write that down and talk to IFA about it or whatever, or me. And we, instead of getting £8,000 a year, I got £400,000 transfer value to the company pension fund, or three company pension funds that I cashed in from my various jobs. I used some of that money to buy the shelter shop. So I surrendered an £8,000 pension right 20 years ahead, and I instantly started making 25 grand. Now that's all tax-free, and if you compound tax-free, then the effect of that is that you double the value of your shop at this kind of rate every 7 years. So by the time I'm 60, I will now have a £100,000 pension. Instead of, if I hadn't known how to do this, I would have been looking forward to an £8,000 pension. Now, I don't know about you, but I can probably do a minute. I don't intend to, but I could if I had to. It's nice. I've got a pension pot that's going to be giving me £100,000 a year. And my actual problem, it's a first world problem, as my mentor John DeMartini would say, is that I'm going to max out, my pension fund maxes out at £1 million value. So I can only have £1 million, which is in commercial property, going to give me about 100,000 a year as a pension, and the Branico. So what I can, of course, do is start firing all the excess funds into pension schemes for my children, and I've got 6 of those. So, you know, it's just a nice way of creating intergenerational wealth. And the other fantastic thing about a SIP or a SAS is that if you've got a company pension scheme, it effectively dies with you. But if you've got a SIP or a SAS, it just carries on and carries on and carries on, and you can pass it down the line to future generations. So I've just clicked over onto portfolio building. So are we looking at the house
still
now there?
Pensions. Yeah, still at Costa Coffee and Shelter.
All right. I was going to give it a minute in case it comes, or a second. Has it changed? No.
No, it's not even trying to change. Not sir.
It seems to be. If I stop, it gets stuck. If I keep going, it's all right. So I don't know what the bloody hell's going on here, but
I think this is the West Coast of Scotland effect.
No, don't you go blaming me. It's something to do with Puerto Banús, I think. But
It's
right,
too hot over here.
Too hot. Yeah, you've
there we
melted.
go.
Right.
Yeah,
So, okay. So I purchased this. This is a 4-bedroom house when I bought it. And the reason I put, that's actually a shot of the back, but the reason I put that shot on is we did a double width, double height extension. So we did all kinds of stuff that would make Dan tremble. We did the Bob the Builder bit, which I'm kind of, I do that. So we turned it from a 4-bedroom house into 4 flats. Now those 4 flats we run as service accommodation. So we retain those. This is in England. So I operate, Dan and myself operate across the UK, various places. So this particular one, it was for sale through a normal residential estate agent, but it didn't have planning permission as a house. Why? Well, for the previous 15 years, it had been used as a hairdresser, but they hadn't actually got planning permission. But if you can imagine, across the front of it, it had, for 15 feet, had a big roller shutter door, and as you went in, it then had sort of, a hairdressing salon. So that's a bit of an unusual feature for a residential house. And therefore, in the street, the house price will probably be 200,000. We picked it up for 130. We've done the conversion, and then based on the income of service accommodation units, the building was valued at 325,000. So, as Dan would say, that's not spectacular. We've not even tripled the value. We've only times it by 2.5. But it's a way of using commercial properties to build a portfolio of service accommodation units. So we're beginning to play with some more advanced strategy combinations here. Right, I'm going to go on to, this is in Perth, isn't it, Dan? So can you see Perth?
Yes, Perth is up.
All right, over to you. So,
thank you.
High Street brands. Dan.
Yeah, this is a property that we purchased for 250 in, I think it was June 2011, or 2011 anyway, I'm not sure about June. And it took me 25 months to locate a national company to move in. So we purchased it as a distressed trading business, straight from the bank. We took 25 months, as I said. The tenant that's in there has 400 units across the UK. And the UK arm of their business is a very small part of it. It's owned by a German behemoth, who I don't even know how many units they've got, but billions in sales annually. So it's a great covenant, 15-year lease. There was a break at year 2, which is obviously passed some time ago, and the reason for that is under those terms with this company, because I know them so well, that sails through the credit committee because it's all controlled by FDs these days. So if I know what requirements, to make sure deals fly through credit committees, it's quite important information. And I'm quite confident that they were going to stay in there. The day before they moved in, they agreed to spend, I think it was £86,000 on the property. So if you imagine, you spent 250. Yes, I've took some pain for 25 months, but after that, I've got a company in there for 15 years that pays their the rent 3 months in advance. Not only 3 months in advance, it's usually 2 weeks ahead of the 3 months, to be honest, because nobody wants to be late. None of these big brands ever want to be late for paying their rent for any reason, because of one reason. The £86,000 here, for example, is quite a small amount of money compared to, a case study we'll show you at the end, where the cumulative amount of money they spent in that property was 2.3 million. So if you can imagine buying a property and your tenants are secured in for 15 to 35 years on that one, and they then go and spend 2.3 million on your own property, it's quite a cool thing. I thought it was quite a cool thing anyway. But back to this one in Perth, it's great. The great thing about this is it's not in a prime high street. We never go for prime high street. We always go for secondary locations, just off prime retail. And the reason for that is that, when the street starts to become vacant, that's where the gold is found. Secondary, tertiary sites is where the gold's found all the time, and you can pick up things at very reasonable prices. This is quite high on the scale for me in terms of price per, versus how big the thing is. It's only 1,700 square foot, and it was 250. But with that tenant in, remember we talked about vacant possession price as being one thing, and investment value being something completely different. The investment value on this makes it worth 533,000. But again, as I said before, the value is not a big, it's just a cherry on top. It's not the thing that I go for. What I go for is transforming vacant commercial property into blue chip investments, which gives you two key things. Number one, it gives you guaranteed rent for 15 years with no hassle at all, which gives you the most important thing that you can ever cherish, which is your time back to go and do whatever you want to do. This one, for example, the last time I was here is June 2013, the day we rented it out. I've never been back, and I don't intend to go back anytime soon. So if you imagine you can have a property rented to someone, and you don't even need to go there, that opens up then something else called national. You know, if you don't need to go and you've got your national managing agent doing all the work for you, then it doesn't matter if it's in Perth or if it's in, Margate or somewhere. It doesn't really make any difference as long as you know the numbers. But I would impress upon everybody that you start with your local patch, because you know it like the back of your hand. So that's where you start first, learn the skills, and then move on from there. Yeah.
Perfect. Another great deal from Dan. So let's keep moving with this one then. So again, because we're so freezing tonight, Dan, tell me if we're frozen. I've got a slide that says, why don't most people do this?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, so the three top reasons we get when myself and Dan say to people, okay, so why don't you do commercial property? The answers we get are, it's too expensive, I haven't got enough money. Well, we've shown you some pretty cheap deals, and I'm going to show you some even cheaper deals now. It's too difficult. Well, everything's difficult if you don't know how to do it, or it's too risky. Well, I've got an opposite view. I think 85% geared buy-to-let property is hell of a sight more risky than 15% geared commercial property. So let's look in a bit more detail at expensive. Dan, we shared with you how he did the Vicky's Hotel for 165,000. That was the maximum he was ever into it for. And when it's all finished, well, Dan doesn't really care if it's never finished, because if it's never finished, they're going to pay him £1,000 per week penalty payment. So whether you want to gear or not, 165 in and £1,000 a week out is a completely unbelievable deal. I'm going to share with you very, very quickly top line details of a £66,000 solicitor's office that I bought a number of years ago now. So is this expensive? So it's 2021 Station Road in Dumbarton. It was a solicitor's office, which was the entire gable end. So it was 4 stories high and 2 stories wide on the ground floor. So I bought this again, £66,000. I bought it into my pension. £66,000 for the vast majority of the UK. That's not even a 1-bedroom flat. I mean, I appreciate, yeah, there's still some areas where you can get a house for £66,000, but in most parts of the UK, that's not even a 1-bedroom flat. I was getting £9,000 per annum rent for it for years from the solicitors. I then put it in for planning permission to convert it to a block of 5 service apartments. So the solicitor retired. That obviously wasn't a surprise. During that time, I actually got the planning permission and redeveloped it as service accommodation. And then it had a new commercial value, again, based on the income generated by the service apartment units of £320,000. So that's roughly times 5. And factor into that, so I bought it into my SIP, did the redevelopment, and then sold it back out of my SIP to myself, because I can't hold that in my SIP. So that's a times 5. So if you sat there thinking, well, that's too expensive, can you do this for nothing? Yeah, you can, but it's not really what you need to have some assets, whether it's time, money, somebody else's money, a pension. You need access to resources. But I hope you would agree that if you can do, if your entry point to this is in the 60-odd thousand pounds, that's the cheapest one I've done so far. I know people that have done far cheaper ones than that. But myself and Dan just want to talk from personal experience, and these are actual deals that we've done. Is it too difficult? Well, Dan and myself a few weeks ago were actually sat down chatting about things, because that's what we do, because we're not stressed and we've got the time to do these things. In my kitchen, we were sat there just talking about stuff, and we actually jumped onto an auction site, and we found this one. I don't know if you recall this, Dan, I'm sure you do. It was £68,000 for a former RBS bank in Fauldhouse.
Paul, we're still on difficult, without a picture. So,
all right, going to reload again. I'm sorry, it's taken slightly longer than we had anticipated. because we're having to, or I'm having to reload every 2 minutes. I've no idea what the hell's going on. So have you got I've just reloaded the picture.
Yes.
So hopefully
There we are.
up it pops. So to find that took Dan and myself, I don't know, 5 minutes, because we know what we're looking for. We were looking for a particular size and a particular set of criteria. And for this one, there was a good possibility of hot food consent. And given its size, which was about 1,200 square feet, I just said to Dan, well, if you got that and got hot food, what could you put in it? What did you say straight away, Dan?
Papa John's, Pizza Hut, and potentially Domino's, but more than likely there'll be a Domino's there by now. But definitely the first two.
Yeah. So we then jumped onto Papa John's website, because Papa John's wants, obviously, hot food consent. They've got particular requirements for 2 doors for deliveries, and Dan knows all this stuff. Of course, that's what he does. And we were amazed, both of us, to discover that Papa John's has only got 4 Papa John units in the whole of Scotland. 2 of those are in Glasgow, 1 is south of the Central Belt, and the other one's in the middle of Edinburgh. So, in other words, they got nothing anywhere near this. So, if Papa John's went in there and so let's say we went to the auction, Dan, and we bought this for £68,000 or 60 grand or something. What kind of lease would Papa John's give you? How much per annum would they give you?
Their typical lease now is 20 years. The rent, where their comfort level is 20 to 30, but really the sweet spot is 24. And they're looking for between 850 and 1,200 square feet. So, but obviously what they're really after as well, over and above that, is a minimum population within 8 minutes, 20 minutes, all these kind of criteria that we kind of teach how you do that. But the other key thing is parking. They have to circulate 15 cars on a Friday and Saturday night, same as Domino's. So every Friday and Saturday night, that 15 cars circling, delivering pizzas, but they have to come right in front of the shop, or at the back of the shop, at the side of the shop, because they always have, Domino's especially, have 2 doors, one for customers and one for the delivery drivers. And why do they do that? It's because 85% of their sales now are through either predominantly mobile, but on the internet, and then deliveries. 85%. There's only 15% sales now of people walking in, which is incredible. And it's just going to get even more so like that. It's 72% 2 years ago.
Unless my eyes deceive me, Dan, that building's got 2 doors in it, which is one of the
Absolutely.
That's one of the other things to it. So top line numbers, without going through the explanation again, if you've got Papa John's in there at 24, 25 grand a year, commercial valuation on that, what do you reckon?
On a bad day, 300,000.
So if you're buying it for 50, 60,000 pounds, 300,000 pound valuation, and 24, 25 grand a year income. So is it difficult? It's like I said earlier, everything is difficult if you don't know how to do it. If you do know how to do it, then it's not difficult. And the 2 of us can show you how to do it. So I'm just flipping on to Risky now, Dan. So can you see Risky?
Yeah, it's there, yeah.
So to take out risk, I'm an engineer, I like repeatability. Do the same thing, get the same result. Fundamental definition of insanity, do the same thing, expect a different result. Well, the same way of operating is to have a system to make sure that you do the same thing and you get the same result. So our system for this is we call the alchemy system. So it's to take a base property and to turn it into gold property, turning base metals into gold, the process of alchemy. So what we share with you, if you want to work with us, is how to acquire these units, how to put in place leases on these units, how to control the units, how to hold the units, the structures, the legal entities that you want to hold them in, be it pensions or companies or LLPs, how to manage the equity in there. Where do you want to be geared? 15, 20, 0, 50%? What's your options? We offer an ongoing mastermind to make sure you're up to speed, supported, cared for, and part of the community, so that you can put your legacy in place. Now, that's the 7-step process that we've got for taking an unloved, empty commercial building into a legacy asset for your lifetime. What we aim to provide is education, knowledge, and support. Those are the 3 things that we have on offer for you. Now, I said roughly an hour ago that I was going to make you an absolutely unbelievable offer. So here it is. Let me ask you a question. So it's the first question that I've actually asked directly of everybody on the call this evening, and here it is. how would you like to work directly with Dan and myself to help kickstart your commercial property investing? Because that's what we would like to find out if it's right for you. So we're now going to go through the details of the bigger deal that we've talked about a few times. And this is, again, one of Dan's. So, roughly, we're going through some of my deals, going through some of Dan's deals. One deal to complete financial freedom. So £2 million of profit from this one deal. Yearly rental in excess of £200,000. The cost initially, okay, this was a bigger deal, 1.25 million. So Dan bought it as a trading business. But as soon as the deal was done, it was revalued at 3.5 million.
Paul,
yep.
It's still freezed on. Let me ask you a question.
Oh.
Okay.
Doing my best at this end. But
it's all good. It's all good.
I'm going to have to put more coal in it, Dan. So where do I put the coal into this laptop?
Just builds up more anticipation. It's all
good. Yeah. Sorry, this is not going as planned.
None of them do.
No. So let's have a look at it. What Dan bought was a 10-pin bowling alley. He bought it direct from a bank, distressed asset division of a bank. Split it into 4 units, which is Wetherspoons, the Co-op, Costa Coffee, National Arcade Chain, and then he leased off the beach, unbelievably, to a ferry operator. So absolutely fantastic. So looking at the plan view there, the biggest unit, I think I'm right in saying, Dan, that's Wetherspoons. Is the white bit is Wetherspoons?
Yeah, it's on the left. Wetherspoons has 6,400 square feet, about half the building.
And then in the middle, we've got the Co-op.
We've got the Co-op and 3,200 square feet. The pink is Costa Coffee.
Yeah.
And the green kind of L-shaped strange unit is the National Arcade chain called Casino, who trade a show. And then the yellow part where it says Shingle, we've recently leased that to CMAL, which is the asset owning arm of obviously the ferry company.
Yeah. And so here's a picture of the actual Co-op that Dan's got there. So Co-op complete with cash machine. This is a picture of the corner. We've got Costa Coffee.
Sorry, Paul, no pictures.
Oh, no. We might have to just post out the pictures to everybody. You might just have to listen to us. And
it'd be easier.
Yeah. Right. Can you see Costa Coffee now?
Yes, Costa in the corner. Fantastic.
All right. Sorry about this, everyone. Oh, thank you for putting up with me and my dodgy technology. Wetherspoons.
Yeah.
The showboat. So this is just pictures, just so you can see. So what I really wanted to do is play you this short video now, and it really is a short video. So this is Dan talking to a local politician. So just bear with me for this is Dan and Tom Marshall. So I'm just going to play that just now. So.
Hi guys, it's Dan Taylor here again. We're in Largs, west coast of Scotland today, and we're looking at one of the completed developments. As you know, we transform distressed commercial property into secure long-term income streams that hopefully adds a little bit of flavour and helps the local community, bringing brands to the high street. And today we're very honoured and privileged to have Tom Marshall, local councillor, Conservative for Largs, here with us today, and he has a couple of words to say. So, hello Tom.
Hi Dan, I'm glad to be here today. Just to say you've done a great job in developing a site, to have Costas in the town, and to have Wetherspoons, and to have the Co-op. It's been a real boon, and it's really brought a lot more people into Largs. Even the traders in the town are quite happy that you've come, that all these nationals are here, and I wish there were more people like you would come and develop some of these sites, because at this present stage the council doesn't have the money to do this, and so every support to you for doing this. Congratulations.
Well, thanks very much Tom, and tune in soon and we'll be popping along the coast to Gourock to have a look at another development soon. Thanks very much. Bye.
Perfect. Welcome back. We're almost at the end and we're almost at the Q&A bit. And apologies, it's taking slightly longer than I wanted it to, or we intended to, because I'm having to reload the bloody slides every 5 minutes. So here is the incredible offer, and this is the absolutely incredible offer. if you feel that you would benefit from spending more time on the phone with Dan, then just click on that link now. So you've just had a free 30-minute strategy call with Dan appear. So there's obviously limited places for this. So first come, first served. So just get in, jump on that link now. Has the link appeared at your end, Dan? Can you see the
yes,
book,
yes.
book now link? Now,
Yep.
if for any reason your technology has been as difficult as my technology is tonight, the other way you can do this is on the screen there. To book your absolutely free consultation with Dan, is you can just type into your browser bit.ly/Dan-Taylor, all lowercase. So it's bit.ly/Dan-Taylor. And the reason that we wanted to do this, Dan and myself, is many people listening will be thinking, I'm kind of quite interested in that, but I've got these questions. So we thought, well, the best way to make sure that you only come and work with us on a more detailed business and turning your, whatever your current strategy or your different assets into a commercial property strategy, which is really a business strategy. It's not so much about bricks and mortar, and it's far more about business and leases and valuations, that it's quite difficult to put that across on a webinar. So we thought the absolute best way that we could do that is, and he's got a bit of free time, as you know, because he's just doing what he loves doing, because his commercial properties set him free. So Dan is going to offer you an absolutely free consultation with himself, so you can really get to the bottom of, is commercial property right for me? So it's as simple as that. So I've just got a few more slides just to finish off, and then we're going to go into Q&A. So your opportunity is just to book a free consultation with Dan right now on that link. So please tell me if this has stopped moving, Dan. I'm just going on to Commercial Club membership, because yes, if after the result of the conversation with Dan, you feel that it would be right for you to join our Commercial Club, then come along and spend 2 days with us, and we will both share with you, teach you, support you on how to find the right property assets, boxes, how to then fill those boxes with high street brands, how to double, triple, or even more the value of commercial property, how to understand your way around leases, how to add value to a property before agreeing a lease without spending thousands on the valuation expert, how to draft your managing agent's contract so that your fee is zero, and fundamentally, how to create your own wealth legacy for you and your family. So we've got some dates. So here's 2 dates for you. You could be working with us as little as 1 week from now. So the 30th to the 31st of October in London. This is where we run the London Commercial Club. So talk to Dan. If you feel it's right for you, we've just got 5 spaces left on that next event. We only work with a maximum group size of 20 people. We've got 15 people already booked. So this is the Royal Horse Guards Hotel, right in the middle of London. It's 90 seconds walk from the Embankment Tube, and that's the 30th and the 31st of October in London. So if you feel that might be right for you, well, book a call with Dan. I mean, obviously there is an investment. You wouldn't expect us to be doing this for free, sharing with you how to create hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds worth of value. So there is an investment to make in yourself. But just give Dan a call, because fundamentally, if this strategy is right for you, then the investment is trivial. And if the investment's not right for you, well, it doesn't really matter what the investment is, does it?
Paul, we're stuck on the first line, how to find the right property assets boxes.
Oh my goodness. That's just...
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's just... Scotland should be getting the internet soon, Dan. Had you heard this?
I'm busy typing answers to questions in here, and I didn't even realise myself as my wife just came in and told me.
All right, so I'm actually going to go back then, in that case, to the Commercial Club membership. I'm going to go through it again now. Can you see it now, Dan, the whole thing?
Yes, London, yeah, Royal Horse Guards. Okay,
so that's the Commercial Club. That's the London dates. And the other place we run
we're on Commercial Club membership, how to find the right property assets boxes, how to create your own wealth. Cool.
Yeah. So everyone can see that. So I'll just go through it again because I appreciate it wasn't on the screen. So how to find the right boxes, how to fill those boxes with the right brands, double, triple, or even more the value of commercial property, how to understand your way around the leases, how to value up a property before you agree to a lease without spending anything, because we'll teach you how to do it yourself. Draft the managing agent's contract so that you're not spending anything, and create your own wealth legacy for both yourself and for your family. So there's the course dates again. Hopefully you can see a picture of it. Can you see the picture this time, Dan? This is, I've got Horse Guards on mine.
Yes, all good, all good.
Perfect. So there's the address and whatever, but there's not too many Royal Horse Guards Hotel in London. It's right on the Thames. It's in the middle, just next to Westminster. It's actually next to Embankment Tube. 5 spaces left. So if you fancy that, then jump on and book that appointment and talk to Dan about whether or not this is right for you. Then we do this in 2 places. We do it up on the gorgeous banks of Loch Lomond. And so the date that we've got for next year, looking slightly further ahead, is the 28th of February and the 1st of March. That's the 2 days. Lodge on the Loch in a place called Luss. Now, that's a brand new date that we're just releasing today. So if you're on this webinar, this is the first mention. Everybody. So if you again, jump on, and you can pretty much definitely get on that one, because we haven't told anyone about that date yet. So the London's date, just to remind you, 31st of October, and we've got 5 places. And that one up here in Scotland is completely new. So just jump on, get that strategy call booked in with Dan. And just going back to what we said at the beginning of this webinar, Warren Buffett, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Now, ain't that the truth? That is just 100% truth. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. So is commercial club or commercial club membership, commercial property, is that the right strategy for you? Well, we're not expecting you to make that decision now. All we want really is, if you're interested in taking this further, we would like you to book a one-to-one strategy call with Dan, completely free on us. Dan's way of giving back to the community, because commercial property has been very, very kind to us, and we'd like to help you explore whether commercial property can be equally kind to you. So this is, well, it looks like me, actually. That's me presenting at the last commercial club in London. We've done one up here in Scotland since. So that's the kind of environment. So hopefully, Dan, you've got a picture of the commercial club in London on the screen in front of you.
Yes, it's there. You're looking fantastic.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You've got a small picture and I'm a long way away. And as part of it, on the first evening, we organise a private dinner in a private dining room, silver service, so we can really get into the nitty-gritty of how you take and apply this strategy for yourself and for your family. Now, if you only did one deal as a result of this, if you just did one Vicky's Hotel and you combine that with a few high street brands, that's going to be stacks of money for the rest of your life. Absolutely stacks and stacks of money. So would it be worth picking up the phone, booking yourself in on a one-to-one consultation strategy call with Dan? Would it be worth it if you only got one deal out of it that only gave you 52,000 of income and hundreds of thousands of cash back for just £90,000 invested? I think it probably would. We've got a couple of guys, as it happens. There's quite a few guys and girls been through Commercial Club with us now. So this is Carl. So I'm just going to load a little video of Carl talking about what he thinks of the time he spent with us in London. So I'm going to play that right now.
Hi there, my name's Carl. I've just done the 2-day Commercial Club course here in London, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I've been looking for a course like this for a good couple of years and searching high and low for somebody that can actually talk to us about investing in commercial property, not doing conversions, but investing in commercial property for its own sake, and how to do that in a strategic way to maximise your return and find really, really good deals. So just finished the course. I'm exhausted, but very, very happy. It's been absolutely fantastic. And anybody that's looking to do commercial investment, commercial property, this is really the only place that's doing it. So I really recommend that you come along and see what Paul and Dan and the gang have got to offer.
Which which is good friend Matt.
How are you doing? Thank you very much for this discussion. I just spent 2 days attending the Commercial Club workshop here in London. Very, very interesting. I learned a lot from Dan and from Paul. Excellent teachers and a lot of new stuff to learn, something I never knew about. So I've picked up a lot of nuggets, and I'm definitely going to be putting this to use. We'll be hooking up with them for the mastermind and taking it from there. Thank you very much.
I am indeed.
Good.
So I'm just gonna go back to the slides for a final 2 or 3 slides just to finish off before we jump into Q&A.
Cool.
Okay, so I think it's the last couple of slides. This is just to remind everybody that you can book an absolutely free consultation with Dan today, just by taking advantage of that offer we've put up there. So you can just jump on, or if it's in any way problematic or difficult, then you can use the bit.ly link. And because technology has proved particularly challenging today, I really appreciate you all spending your time with us. If all else fails, look, there's a phone number. So it's a big thank you from Dan and myself. And the phone number is there for you, 01302. Can you see this, Dan?
Yes, I can see it. 01302 897 131.
That's it. So if all else fails, so if you can't get the internet to work like I've had trouble with tonight, then just phone that number. So book yourself on right now to make sure you get the earliest possible space with Dan for your strategy call. Absolutely no charge. And let's just talk through, is this right for you? And that, my friends, is that. So Dan, you've been very kindly monitoring the question box while I've been blathering. So you got any questions that you want to answer just while I find the questions and catch up with you?
Yes, well, we've answered them all so far. I think if there's any we haven't answered, I'd be keen to for someone to type back in the chat box. But let me just go back, because as people ask questions, everybody else can't see the questions. So it might be quite good to go over a couple.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Okay. Well, the one that's popped straight out in front of me, I'm in the chat box now, is Ovando is, hi, I tried to book, but I haven't received the email. I'm sure you will, Ovando. I'm not sure it's instant. So, yeah, Dan, I can see Dan's saying try the bit.ly link, and all else fails, give that phone. Okay, let's even do this, Dan. We did this before, didn't we? If for whatever reason you can't get through, just put your phone number into the chat box. Oh, Avando's saying, nah, it's okay, he's got it. Okay, so it's working. Good, hooray! The technology is working. Avando's got it. Avando's booked himself. He's booked himself on.
Fantastic. But if you're watching from a phone and for some reason you can't, the link isn't going through because sometimes it's more challenging on a mobile device, then and if you still want to get together for half an hour for a chat, then put your name and phone number in, and somebody from office will book a time up, and yeah, great, let's have a chat. Absolutely, because everybody's situation is individual and very much different. I was talking to somebody the last couple of days, and their biggest driver, or their one biggest problem, is that they're overgeared. They have residential buy-to-lets in London. They're overgeared, worried about the crash coming, and they want a strategy that can, assist with the de-gearing of that whole portfolio, so they don't have to sell some of the units. So we went over that in detail, and the best way to go about that, as somebody else, was that his biggest concern is, after the 2-day course, is there further hand holding. He was concerned, when this individual has made a lot of money, and his biggest concern is not what return I'm going to get, return on capital. He just wants the return of capital. He doesn't want to lose his money. So he wants to be kind of more one-on-one kind of thing, help along the process, because the key thing about this, although it's a very risk averse strategy and low geared, it's all about protecting your capital and about building wealth and building a legacy. The key thing is to know where the potholes are. And I think Paul and myself have stepped in a few landmines over the years, to be honest. And so knowing these things pre-armed is always a good thing. So everybody's individual circumstances are always different. So that's why we thought about this strategy call together. Find out what the issue is or what your goal is, what's the plan, and then address them on a one-on-one basis.
Sure.
I think it's quite a good idea, and hopefully it's going to work. And I'm sure, for one thing, it'll provide a lot of good content, valuable information to whoever jumps on the call.
For sure. And Louise, hi Louise. Louise is saying, hi guys, is it possible to get the actual slideshow? The presentation froze a lot and I missed out on lots of the details of your slides. Well, if you've got anything that you want to like drill into, really drill into, strong suggestion, Louise, just jump on the opportunity we're giving you there to book yourself in with a call with Dan, and Dan can always fire over any particular slides or go over the numbers if you're missing out on anything. So we've got a question just coming in from Mark, who's saying, great webinar, thank you. Well, thank you, Mark, that's very kind. What sort of timeline do most deals take? Well, I'll maybe answer first and then Dan, see what you want to add to it. I've done deals that have taken anything up to 2 years. I've also done deals that take as little as 0 time. So that one, the solicitor's office that I told you about, I viewed it with, I bought that from distressed asset arm of a bank. I agreed a deal, I shook hands on a deal with the bank officials on the spot, and we got the whole deal done in about 7 weeks. So that was from nothing to, because the solicitors wasn't in financial trouble. It was a solicitor's office. I bought it as a solicitor's office. So it's a going concern that I was buying. It was just the landlord had gone bankrupt. So I was buying it out of bankruptcy, and it took me about 7 weeks. So it's from kind of no time at all right the way to 2 years is my timescale. What would you say are your two extremes and maybe even average, Dan?
Well, in terms of average, I don't really know, to be honest. But in terms of extremes, like the old Largs Bowl took me 4 years. Now, why would it take 4 years? It's a great situation. We bought a trading business that was creating profits, not amazing profits, but still profitable. So, when I talk about stress-free money, that was a stress-free situation because we were paying down capital to the bank, trading, and whatever. And, the position was okay. It was good. And it's not as good as, back in the day, but it was still fine. It was good. But the key thing is why did I take 4 years? It's because I didn't want to market this to everybody. I didn't have an agent. I did it myself. And why was that? It seems kind of contrarian or, not the right thing to do. I would always advise get an agent. But what I wanted was specific tenants. And you've got to ask yourself the question, what kind of tenants do you want? And the key thing when picking tenants, now this is a real key point, is that you always want to Amazon-proof your portfolio. Now, what that means is looking forward to 30 years and asking yourself the question, is the tenant I'm proposing to put in this box going to be here in 30 years? Or is Amazon going to take them out of the game? And if the answer is not an absolute 100% yes, they will be here, then I would suggest you pick a better tenant. Now, if you're using stress-free money, you can have the patience to do that. If you're not and you're geared, then you maybe don't have as much patience and you'll take the first person or second person that comes along that might not be as good a tenant. As now, that Largs Bowl, we have leases from 15 to 35 years, and every one of them I'll put money on will be renewing. Now, that is because I kind of look very, very long term, backed up by macroeconomic and demographic data. So macroeconomic and demographic data, to understand that, what's going to happen in 30 years, is really, really key to this whole process. And we take people through that on the course, what that means, not only what does it mean, but from the information, how then does it apply to us, and how can we take action from that? This is the key fundamental to this whole strategy, is knowing, having a look forward into the future of what's going to happen, and having a good idea who's still going to be here. Because everybody remembers HMV. everybody remembers Blockbuster. Everybody remembers Toys R Us. I've been in there Lord knows how many times and spent far too much money, but they're not here, unfortunately, anymore. So you don't want to align yourselves with tenants like that. What you need to align yourselves with first is what are the macroeconomic and demographic trends that are going to be happening? You know, because we live in an aging population now. And what does that mean? Well, we don't have enough time right now to go on, explain that on the webinar, but we live in a very much an aging population, kind of what Japan was 15 years ago. And they've had 15, 20 years of stagnation because of their aging demographics. But to come back on the point, apologies for digressing, I kind of get excited and just keep going. But, why did it take 4 years? Because I wanted long-term tenants. So in terms of that was 4 years. What's a kind of another one? 25 months was the Perth one, because again, I wanted, between 1 and 3 tenants. That's all I was after there. In terms of the Victoria Hotel one, the case study, that took literally 9 months to sell it. So I bought it, 9 months later I sold it, made a profit, very small profit, 28k. But that was the boomerang sale that we discussed with the Housing Association, and they were committed to spending 1.5 million over and above the purchase price. So, that was quite quick. 4 years is quite long. 25 months in Perth, probably quite long as well. But this strategy is all about using stress-free money so you can have the patience to do that and go forward and pick the right tenant, coupled with aligning yourself and your tenant with the right demographic and background, demographic and economic information. You can pick the right people that nobody can guarantee, but if you know this kind of information, you know roughly who's going to be here, who can be taken out by the Amazon of things, who can be taken out by automation. So a long-winded answer to say 9 months, 2 years, 4 years.
That's fine. Well, it's okay. So I've done some a lot quicker than that, but then I'm more likely to be the operating company. So as well as owning the commercial box, if you're putting yourself in as a tenant, then it's going to be quicker. So a couple of really good questions here from Mark and Karen. So Mark is saying, sounds too good to be true. What are the hardest parts of this strategy? Well, Mark, my answer to that is very, very clear. It's the hardest part, or the reason most people don't do it, so let's change it into that, is because they don't know how. There's a whole separate language to let you into the club, which is why we call it the commercial club. And the hardest part is learning the language and making sure you understand the principles. Once you got that, and you got somebody to, that's there beside you, and you got a bit of hand holding if that's what you need, you're off and running, absolutely off and running. So Karen is now asking a question for Dan. And so I'll just read it out and then over to you, Dan. I'll very, very briefly say what I do, but you do something different. Dan, would you simply focus on this strategy, by which I think Karen means commercial property, and nothing else? Or do you have enough time to do others, such as service accommodation? So I do, Karen. I'm very comfortable running service accommodation, but that's my core strategy. That's the thing I do. And the commercial for me is a way to get SA units. And if you'd have asked Dan, I'm going to let him answer in a second, but if you'd have asked Dan that question 6 months ago, he probably said, no. I've got the time, but I'm not focused on service accommodation, too many moving parts. But he spent a little bit too much time with me, and I'm polluting him with the idea that service accommodation might be a good idea. So with that pre-framing, Dan, do you have time to do other things? And are you considering service accommodation?
I think it's pollution by osmosis, just being around you far too often. But absolutely, there's commercial property investing. When you're buying vacant commercial property and turning into blue chip investments is an incredible strategy because it gives your time back. So do I have time? All I have now is time. I don't have a job, to be honest. On the 26th of March 2016, I retired from all operations, and the kids come back from school and all their friends are asking, how come your dad doesn't have a job? What does he do? What's going on? And so, yes, I have the time. Would I do another strategy? Well, I'm about to put potentially 15 units in a hotel I purchased. The hotel was 167,000. It went through the auction twice. I bought it the day before it went to the third auction. I still think I overpaid, to be honest, because my maximum cap is like 150 a box. So the average box is of 10,000 square feet. So if you can just imagine 10,000 square foot, 150,000, that's my kind of tick boxes when I become interested. So
that's ridiculous. £15 square foot to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's massively different from residential. And it's because of all these things we've talked about before. But if you know the right tenants to target, then, obviously we talked about macroeconomic demographic conditions and how to align yourselves with brands that fit, actually serve those demographic trends. You can double or triple or multiply or more, the values, even when you're buying at open market value. Now, in terms of the SA, that Irvine Hotel, we've got 9,000 square foot there. We're going to keep 1,470 square foot as hot food commercial, and we'll get 24K all day long for that. But in terms of the upstairs, or the rest of the ground floor and the upstairs, we have 7,500 square feet, and the plans show that we can, squeeze 15 two-bed flats as service accommodation in there. Now that's 15 two beds, and each room has 2 single beds in. So that's a lot of contractors, and we're going for the contractors market. So in terms of numbers on that, the ground rent will be £48,000, which is about £24,000 for the commercial, £24,000 for the service accommodation company, trading company, and this will be an OpCo-PropCo thing. So how that breaks down is £150 roughly per unit per month, which is nothing. Paul pays market rents for the unit he takes on, just about 90% or so. And, but on top of that, we're going to have the operating company that will, typically £1,000 a month profit you get from service accommodation. It should be more because we're only charging £150 per unit per month, from our own PropCo company. So, yes, definitely, if anything, I would recommend you do SA with commercial property investing. The reason being is that hotel is going to be set on fire. The financials are going to blow up as soon as the two strategies
He doesn't mean that literally, everybody. He is not going to burn it down. But, yeah. So
it's going to be fantastic.
I thought I'd infected you. So it's true. You heard it here first. Dan Taylor is actually going to do some work for a change. So,
well, I never said I'm going to do the work, but
okay. You're going to employ someone to do some work.
We'll do the contracting by the looks of things, but it looks like potentially, depending on numbers, Paul, we could be doing a JV with Diamond Service Apartments to run the service accommodation.
Yeah, of course.
Keep it in the family.
We can put something together. Phil Evans, thank you, Phil. That's a beautiful message. Thank you. That's why I do this. I can pretty much do whatever on earth I wanted to do, and I just love doing this. So here's what Phil said, and thank you for saying it. Listening in from the Costa Blanca, so a bit nearer to you than me, Dan. And he's saying, thank you very much. Very inspiring. So thank you, Phil. And if we've inspired Phil or anybody else, and as a result of that, you go take some action, then that's absolutely perfect. And the action that I would like you to take is just jump on, book in a consultation. Well, many of you already have, but we can still take more. Dan's been very generous with his time here. Just book a completely free consultation with Dan today, and just see, well, is commercial property, is the commercial club, is that right for me? So,
and there's no stress. It's not as if I'm a salesperson. It's just a chat, chewing the fat between two people, and trying to give you an insight into the commercial property investing, if it's right for you, depending on what your own personal goals are, and your own personal situation. And it could be right, it might not be right. And it's just a chat. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just somebody that loves to speak to people about commercial property investing. I'm a bit obsessive. I love it, and it's only because I know how it can transform financial situations, personal situations. Give you time back. It's just a wonderful strategy, a wonderful tool.
It is. Oh, thank you, Dan. And on behalf of everybody else that's listened in this evening, I'm sure they'd all want to join me in saying thank you for offering up your time in this extremely kind way. And I do know you, and I know that you'll love it. So I know for you, you're not giving up anything, because you've got the time and you're spending it how you love to spend it, which is talking to people about commercial property. So thank you from all of us to you, Dan. And
thank you, Paul, for giving me the opportunity. A year ago, it's not something I thought I would do, but why am I doing this education section? It's because a year ago, actually, I was doing a lot of life insurance and rewriting the wills, and it gets you to kind of thinking, what happens if I kind of pop my clogs a lot sooner than I would like to, and what would happen to the kids? And fine, they would have a lot of property, a lot of money, a lot of rent coming in, but they wouldn't have the wisdom, the understanding, the knowledge, the know-how to actually keep it going, so that their kids and their kids are fine. And when going back to thinking long term, I think, what about the kids, and how do we set something up as a transgenerational strategy, a transgenerational structure, so that everything passes down through the generations without attracting IHT, inheritance tax? And how do we, along the way, compound the growth so that the money is retained within a structure? And we teach all that in the course, and it's been a kind of bugbear of mine for the last 5 years to find the right structure to do this and to retain as much of your earnings and compound those earnings, so you can actually buy more and replace whatever it is that's demanding your time right now. It gives you money back on an automated basis to then have your time back to do whatever you want to do.
Perfect. And it's been a pleasure on a personal basis for me to get to know your lovely family better. So whether it's your gorgeous other half, Elaine, and that's fabulous, but I can see why you would get excited that your oldest, Danny, she's involved as well now, and I've just seen the lights come on in her. She gets the strategy, and she was telling me last time I saw her that she's got her own box and she's going to fill her own box. So she's
just found a tenant recently that's been amazing. But the key thing about this, putting this course together, was all for them, to try and give them the tools, the wisdom, the knowledge, and know-how to how to do this themselves. But I didn't really think that she would get involved as she's done. And on the course, just to give you an insight, obviously we teach how to do this, but what we also do is give you something that's absolutely invaluable that we've never touched on tonight. And it's something I never had when I started. And if you can imagine 55 brands, 56, I think, and having the inside know-how of where they want to expand, geographically, population-wise, and, how many square foot they need, and how big the shop front is that they need, and, kind of peculiar things like that. They're real specific requirements. Imagine if that was all in a spreadsheet. Well, Danny's put that together. Obviously, I've told her exactly what to do and checked it. But not only that, for each brand, the UK is broke up into sections, and each section's got their own regional acquisitions manager. And imagine having their own name and telephone number and personal email address. That's all in the spreadsheet. And then couple that with there's 56 brands on there. There's also 40 odd places where you can find cheap commercial property. The other thing, which is incredible, every time I think of this, it's opened my eyes, is even though there's 56 brands and all their contact details and requirements on the spreadsheet that we give to people and give access to, just from 7 of those brands, so just 7 out of the 56 that's on the list, they need 2,000 shops over the next 5 years. So they need to expand by another 2,000 shops, and who they are is the 4 coffee brands and the 3 pizza brands. Everybody thinks the 4 coffee brands. Who are the 4 coffee brands? Now, obviously, it's Starbucks, Costa, Caffè Nero, but there's a new entrant into the UK, and they're from Canada, and they're the major player in Canada. And they've got 27 sites. They've only opened 1 site, which is in Glasgow, but they have another 27 sites under leases right now, and they're going on a massive expansion plan. Plus another company, so imagine just 7 brands, need 2,000 sites in the next 5 years. we've never even added up how many in total the full 56 brands need. Now imagine if you only got 1, 2, or 3 of those. You know, and the average box is kind of 30, 40K. My average is 40K. You know, in a pizza land, it's 25, 30K. But imagine you just get 3 boxes at 40K, and it takes you 3 years. And you've got 10K a month coming in. That's great, but what's more important is the time that it gives you back. It releases you from anything, doing any work, which is wonderful. It really is. I think it was George Allsops. George Allsops. Allsops is one of the national auction houses. What he said recently is he's had a massive conversion of residential property investors coming to the auctions and buying commercial property at auction recently over the last kind of year. And what he's noticed is that when they buy one, none of them can believe how easy and simple things are. And they just want to do one more thing, which is buy another one. Now, the problem with it, the great thing is they realize how easy it is and they want to do more. The problem with it, though, is they're paying full retail price. They've already got a tenant in place, a national brand in place. So they're paying seriously top retail figures for that asset. What we teach you is how to take a basic asset, vacant, distressed commercial property, and then actually learn how to put the brand in there. And then potentially, if you want to sell it in Allsops or Acuitas, it's an easy thing to do. They're queuing up to buy this kind of thing. I would suggest you don't do that, and you just keep it for the long term. My strategy is, I'm not even exiting on death. It just passes on and passes on. And if you know the right structures, to employ, you can earn income and put it in a specific structure that's transgenerational. Now that kind of excites me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, I know if I don't stop you, you won't stop talking until about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. So,
apologies.
No, don't go apologising. We love it, man. So, Dawn is saying, thank you for both talking about commercial property. I got back really late. I missed out. Is there anyone I can hear or see again? Well, the best way, Dawn, is just to click on, book in yourself a one-to-one, completely free consultation with Dan, and Dan can take you through any of the bits that you've missed. So I think, Dan, if it's okay with you, it's time to wind up for this evening, because we're coming up to 2 hours now. The two of us are bad as each other, and we encourage each other to spend forever on webinars. So do you want to say goodbye to everybody, Dan? And then I'll just say goodbye from me.
Yeah, I think just quickly before we say goodbye, there's just one thing. That I really believe this is the simplest business in the world, because all you're doing is locating good secondary commercial property and then marketing it to people who are already looking for them. And at the same time, you're regenerating the local communities and high streets. There's not a lot better than that. Plus, obviously, you're getting your own time back because you have automated income for 15 years or so. But I just wanted to leave you with that it is a seriously simple strategy. And sometimes in life, you get to a pivotal moment. And I've had mine, where you always talk about an event happening, and it was before this happened and after this happened. And if it's right for you right now, then jump on a call, no problem. It's just two friends having a chat, chewing the fat, and that's all it is. And all we'll talk about is your situation and if this is right for you or not. And with that, I'll say thanks very much for coming, everybody. Thanks very much for spending your time. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. And as Paul always says, well, he doesn't actually say this. He says it in the same way. I've been Dan. You've been awesome. And Paul, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'll sign off with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you from me to each and every one of you for getting up your evenings to see if commercial property investing and commercial club is right for you. So one final time from me, just make sure you book a one-to-one consultation with Dan for a chat. And what I always say is thank you. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. Good night. See you soon. Bye-bye.